After learning that I was pregnant, my sister-in-law went crazy at the dining table. Didn't you want to be childless? How can you go back on your word? Do you know that giving birth for a woman is equivalent to half a step into the gates of hell? I thought my sister-in-law was worried about me and smiled and told her to relax. After my sister-in-law calmed down, she handed me a bottle of drink and said it was to congratulate me. I drank it all in one gulp, but she was surprised and said, "I'm really sorry. I mistakenly handed you a drink with paraquat added. I was severely poisoned, but my sister-in-law's family blocked me from calling an ambulance. After I died with 2 lives lost, I learned that my sister-in-law wanted me to have no children so that the inheritance could be left to my nephew in the future. When I opened my eyes again, I went back to the day when my sister-in-law apologized to me. This time, I opened my mouth in horror. Sister-in-law, I just poured all the drinks to your family members." At the dining table, when sister-in-law Chloe learned the news of my pregnancy, she stood up abruptly from the chair and looked at me with eyes full of anger. I sat on the chair and was in a trance for a moment. Suddenly, I realized that I had been reborn. In my previous life, my husband and I decided not to have children before marriage. After marriage, I got pregnant unexpectedly. The doctor said that my constitution was not good. Having an abortion might be more harmful to my body than giving birth. After thinking about it, my husband and I decided to keep this child. This was originally a matter between my husband and me. But after learning that I was pregnant, Chloe became extremely excited. What I mean is, there are too many dangers in giving birth for women. It's equivalent to half a step into the gates of hell. As someone who has experienced it, sister-in-law can't bear to see you suffer such hardships. In my previous life, I was deceived by her sincere appearance. I thought she really cared about me. Who knew she was so vicious? Not long after being tricked into drinking the drink with paraquat added, my nose began to bleed and I had difficulty breathing. At that time, my brother and my husband had gone out to buy things. Only my mother and I were at home. My mother cried and wanted to take me to the hospital, but she was blocked by my sister-in-law's family members all at once. Which is more important, a loser or your daughter-in-law and grandson? If a loser dies, she dies. If your grandson's mother goes to jail because of this, your grandson will hate you in the future. Be clear-headed and not confused. Since she decided to get pregnant, she has already been inclined towards outsiders in her heart. In the future, what will your Alice's family's grandson have to do with the money she earns? What's the use of such a loser? My mother didn't listen to their brainwashing and insisted on calling an ambulance, but she was pushed down by them and hit a knife and died on the spot. I closed my eyes deeply and looked at the noisy Chloe's family members in front of me, suppressing the hatred in my heart. When Chloe saw that I didn't speak, she thought I had listened and couldn't help but be delighted on her face. I have a relative who is just an obstetrician and gynecologist. I'll ask her to make an appointment for your abortion tomorrow. While it's still early and easy to abort, in terms of price, for the sake of sister-in-law, you can still get a discount. Saying that, Chloe couldn't wait to take out her mobile phone and make a call. I sneered and directly threw the chopsticks in my hand in front of her. Those with a cheap mouth have a lot of things to do. Are you the one I'm talking about? What does it matter to you whether I'm pregnant or not? Chloe was startled. Chloe's mother was the first to react. She pointed at me and scolded, "You cheap girl. Who are you calling cheap mouth? My xiaoxi is for your own good. It's really like a dog biting Lu Dongbin and not knowing a good heart." The rest of Chloe's family echoed one after another, "That's right. I didn't expect this girl to be so unqualified. How can she talk to her sister-in-law like this? It's said that an elder sister-in-law is like a mother. With your attitude, in ancient times, you would be drowned in a pig cage. Today was a festival. My husband's parents died early. My husband and I bought some big crabs and other seafood and brought them to my mother's house to celebrate together. After seeing it, my sister-in-law immediately called her parents and called over Chloe's whole family. The reason is that her parents, her younger brother, sister-in-law, little nephew, aunts and uncles all like to eat crabs and seafood. After all, they are relatives. When they came, my mother didn't have the nerve to say anything and warmly entertained them. Chloe's family was like Grandma Lou entering the Grandview garden. They curiously looked at everything in the room. They touched here and there. It was okay if they didn't change shoes or put on shoe covers. A group of people grabbed food before the plates were served. Children even grabbed food directly with their hands. While eating, they complained that my husband and I were stingy and bought too little. Each person could only eat 2. Later, they even asked my husband and my brother to go out and buy barbecue skewers and durians for them. At this time, my husband and my brother have already gone out. My mother heard the commotion and hurried out of the kitchen and asked what was going on. Chloe's mother put her hands on her hips and unreasonably accused my mother, "It's not your good daughter. Her sister-in-law cares about her," but she actually said that her sister-in-law has a cheap mouth. Chloe cooperated by reddening her eyes. My mother was a bit confused. Chloe's mother spoke even more vigorously. "If this were my daughter and she treated her sister-in-law so ungratefully, I would have beaten her half to death long ago. I heard that she even studied until she got a doctorate. Reading so many books has all gone into the dog's stomach." Chloe's younger brother Benjamin had his mouth full of oil. While sucking his fingers, he chimed in, "That's right. A lot of tuition fees have been spent, right? If you had that money, it would be better to keep it for me." Even though I knew what kind of people Chloe's family was, at this time, listening to Benjamin's words, I was still angered and amused. How can someone be so shameless? But before I could speak, my mother hurriedly smoothed things over with a smile all over her face. "Mother of the in-laws, calm down, calm down. It's a festival today. It's not good to quarrel. Come and sit down and have a meal. There are freshly cooked spare ribs in the pot. I'll bring them out for everyone." I know my mother's character. In her heart, she is on my side, but she is weak and doesn't like to quarrel. Having found a way out, Chloe's mother sneered and sat back in her seat, but she was still unforgiving and criticized and educated me. "With your temper, you won't be able to educate your child well even after giving birth. Maybe there will be a difficult delivery during childbirth. Not only will the child not be born, but you might also lose your own life. It's best to have an abortion." Although my words are harsh, they are all the truth. I'm thinking of you. Don't be petty and get angry. At this moment, my mother finally understood what was going on and her face became ugly. Before my mother could speak, I spoke first. "Auntie, don't worry. My husband and I have money. A professional medical team has been booked. After giving birth, I don't need to take care of or educate the child. There is a professional nanny. When the child grows up, there will be an exclusive tutor. Unlike some families, they can't afford crabs and seafood. Forget it. During festivals, they bring the whole family to their in-laws' house to freeload. Speaking of which, even the dogs on the roadside would be ashamed. Oh, I have a bad temper. Although my words are harsh, they are all the truth. Don't be petty. Be careful not to damage your health. Does your coffin have to be bought for you by your daughters-in-laws? Chloe's mother was so angry that her face was distorted. She pointed at me and stammered, you, nonstop. Chloe wasn't any better. Her chest was constantly heaving up and down. She couldn't bear it anymore and took out a bottle of beverage with paraquat added from the side. Alice is right. Since you want to give birth, then go ahead. Congratulations on your pregnancy, sister-in-law. Since pregnant women can't drink alcohol, you can drink this beverage. Sister-in-law toasts you. My eyes fell on the bottle of beverage that Chloe handed over, and the coldness in my eyes deepened. Sister-in-law, this beverage won't be poisonous, will it? Chloe's hand holding the beverage trembled, and the beverage bottle directly rolled to the ground. Her face was extremely panicked and she looked at me in disbelief. Chloe's mother was furious on the spot. You ungrateful girl. What nonsense are you talking about? What kind of beverage without a label isn't poisonous? I won't drink such a product without quality assurance. Chloe breathed a sigh of relief. A smile appeared on her face and she said to me, Alice, this is freshly squeezed lemon juice by sister-in-law. I found an empty bottle to fill it, so there is no label. But it's much cleaner than the ones outside. Pregnant women can also supplement vitamin C by drinking it. Come and taste how it tastes. She bent down slightly and reached out to pick up the bottle. Just as her fingers were about to touch the bottle, I kicked the bottle away without hesitation. I only drink milk. The people of Chloe's family couldn't hold it in any longer. Chloe's aunt slapped the table hard, her eyes wide open, and shouted angrily in a loud voice, just because you're pregnant, do you think you're a princess? You still want to drink milk? When I was pregnant, I could still work in the fields with a big belly. You're so pretentious. I sat on the chair with a calm expression. After Chloe and these people had criticized me thoroughly, she pretended to speak. Okay. There is a supermarket downstairs. If Alice wants to drink, I'll go buy it for her. As a sister-in-law, it's right to take care of the younger sister-in-law. Although she said so, the corners of Chloe's eyes were still red. My mother saw that the atmosphere was not right and stood in front of Chloe. Cece, sit down and eat. I'll go. Alice is not that pretentious person. Maybe she's pregnant and her emotions are a bit unstable. A pregnant woman's emotions are a bit unstable. I was a bit speechless at my mother's character and rubbed my temples. But how could Chloe let my mother go? If my mother went, how could she do something? She ignored my mother and hurried towards the door. The people of Chloe's family began to criticize my mother, Cece's mother-in-law. You're quite good at making excuses for your daughter. What do you mean by unstable emotions of pregnant women? Which one of us here isn't an experienced person? Why weren't we unstable back then? In my opinion, she's just ignorant. Heartless. Deserves a beating. If it were my daughter, I'd slap her and she'd be obedient. My mother's face flushed red from being scolded, but she was still speaking up to explain for me. Looking at the arrogant people of Chloe's family, I sneered and quietly picked up the so-called lemon juice freshly squeezed by Chloe from the ground. Paraquat is colorless and odorless. When added to lemon juice, nothing can be seen from the outside. At this time, the women of Chloe's family were surrounding my mother and scolding her, while the men of Chloe's family were looking down at their mobile phones. I poured Chloe's lemon juice into the red wine bottle and mixed it with the red wine. Then I put the empty bottle on the table and pretended to have just finished drinking. What you aunt said is right. I was being pretentious. Don't scold my mother anymore. When the people of Chloe's family turned to look at me, I was just wiping my mouth. I showed restraint on my face and seemed very unhappy. Chloe's mother rolled her eyes as if she had sensed something and pushed my mother to the ground with a single shove. Mother-in-law, you are greatly responsible for not educating your daughter well. My pupils constricted and I stood up from the chair. What are you doing? Chloe's aunt stopped me. Alice, we are all family. With your conduct, we are very worried about leaving Ian to your mother to take care of. So we have to help your mother change her thinking first. Ian is the name of my nephew. He is over 1 year old. My mother has been taking care of him since he was born. I took a deep breath and suppressed the anger in my heart. What do you want? I can see now that these people are trying to control me by bullying my mother. Chloe's mother smiled triumphantly. It's nothing much. Just kneel down and apologize to us. We are also your elders. This request is not excessive, is it? Chloe's aunt chimed in. It's not excessive at all. We are elders. She should do it. My mother got up from the ground with red eyes, but as soon as she got up, she was pushed down by Chloe's mother. My mother said, Alice is still pregnant. I'll kneel. I'll kneel. I lowered my eyes, covering the coldness in the depths of my eyes. I reached out and placed the red wine bottle in the middle of the table. I opened my mouth coldly. Mom, we haven't done anything wrong. I spent nearly 10,000 yuan on buying crabs and seafood. As a result, we didn't eat much. It all went into the dog's stomach. The red wine I bought cost more than 30,000 yuan. You also used it to entertain them. Haven't we done enough? As soon as the eldest aunt of the Chloe family heard that the red wine cost more than 30,000 yuan, she immediately widened her eyes and ran towards the dining table. This red wine is actually more than 30,000 yuan. Oh my, why didn't you say so earlier? I just had a little bit just now. I hurriedly picked up the red wine and sternly scolded her. What are you doing? This is for me to drink. The eldest aunt of the Chloe family rolled her eyes at me and snatched the red wine away. Give it to me. You are really ignorant if I say you are ignorant. With so many elders here, is there a place for you to speak? The eldest aunt of the Chloe family grinned and poured herself a full glass first. Then she poured for the others of the Chloe family as well. This taste is really good. The eldest aunt of the Chloe family took a sip and looked at Chloe's mother with a smile. Chloe's mother also took a big sip and nodded in praise. It's really good. After speaking, Chloe's mother turned her gaze towards me and opened her mouth in a commanding tone. The lowly girl of the Alice family, where did you buy this wine? You send a bottle to each of us. For your previous rudeness in bumping into us, we won't care anymore. The eldest aunt of the Chloe family nudged Chloe's mother's arm. I want 3 bottles. Chloe's mother nodded. Then 3 bottles for each person. The eldest aunt of the Chloe family was extremely happy. She quickly drank up the rest, poured herself another glass. With the last bit left, she filled Chloe's mother's glass. I stood there, seemingly shaking with anger. You are too excessive. Chloe happened to come back at this time. Hearing what I said, she subconsciously replied, What's too excessive? My gaze fell on her hand. At this time, she was holding a bottle of milk in her hand. It had been opened. Seeing her daughter come back, Chloe's mother raised her head. If we had known that your sister-in-law is such a person, our Chloe family should not have married our daughter to your Alice family in the first place. Just asking her to send some wine to the elders, she keeps making excuses. Do you think we are rare? We just want to see if you have filial piety. Let me say, Cece. After today, you should come back with us and bring Ian along. The eldest aunt of the Chloe family looked at my mother. Be proud of oneself, Ly. Let her protect this little bitch. In the future, she won't be able to see her grandson. Ian was brought up by my mother since childhood, so naturally they have deep feelings. Hearing that she wouldn't be able to see Ian, my mother's face subconsciously showed anxiety, but she didn't say anything either. Chloe laughed. It's no big deal. Alice, I bought the milk you wanted. Drink it quickly. As she spoke, she quickly poured the milk into the cup in front of me. Seeing this, the eldest aunt of the Chloe family was full of dissatisfaction. Cece, what are you doing? Why are you still so nice to this little bitch? She's already like this. It's okay, Aunt. We are all family. Don't worry about these things. Alice, drink the milk quickly. I also asked the store to heat it up for you. Drink it while it's hot. It won't be good if it gets cold. Chloe spoke with a kind face, but there was a hint of impatience that was hard to detect in her eyes. The eldest aunt of the Chloe family pursed her lips and said in a sarcastic tone, Look, the daughter of our Chloe family really has good upbringing and is magnanimous. Yes, the Chloe family really has good upbringing. They can even raise a murderer. Chloe's mother said impatiently beside her, If she doesn't drink, forget it. She has already drunk all the lemon juice you squeezed just now. She probably can't drink anymore now. Give it to me. As she spoke, Chloe's mother was about to reach out to take it, but Chloe quickly took it away. Her gaze then fell on the empty bottle I had placed on the table. There was unconcealed excitement in her tone, and her voice couldn't help but rise a notch. Alice, you really drank it all. I opened my mouth as if I wanted to answer Chloe, but in the next second, a painful expression appeared on my face. I bent over and covered my stomach. When my mother saw me like this, she was startled. Alice, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? Mom, I, my stomach hurts so much. I opened my mouth weakly, seemingly in great pain. Sweat couldn't help but appear on my forehead. Ambulance, ambulance. Call an ambulance quickly. Seeing that I was in so much pain, my mother was extremely panicked. She screamed and anxiously looked for her phone to call an ambulance, but Chloe snatched the phone away and threw it on the ground. The people of the Chloe family also looked over in confusion. Only Chloe couldn't help laughing out loud. Chloe's mother frowned. You lowly girl, what are you doing again? Mom, I know what's wrong with Alice. What's wrong? Poisoned, what else could it be? Ha ha ha. After Chloe finished laughing, she pretended to cover her mouth with her hand as if she just realized something. She opened her mouth in surprise. Look at my memory. This bottle that held lemon juice before contained paraquat. What? My mother gasped and almost fainted from shock. Ambulance. Call an ambulance. Please, Cece. Save my daughter. She is still pregnant. Chloe's face was full of malice. She directly threw my mother aside. She is precious because she is pregnant. Didn't I give birth to the eldest grandson for your Alice family? My mother was full of shock and looked at Chloe in disbelief. What does Alice's pregnancy have to do with you? The people of the Chloe family looked at the scene in front of them and one by one they also reacted. Chloe's mother's eyes lit up and retorted to my mother's words, how can it be irrelevant? If she is a dink and her husband's parents are gone, then won't all the inheritance be Ian's in the future? Now that she is pregnant, then there will be no share for Ian in the future. My mother was shocked by Chloe's mother's words. She trembled her lips and retorted, what kind of fallacy is this of yours? Alice has always been good to Ian. How can you think like this? No money is as important as people. Chloe almost rolled her eyes to the sky. Come on. If she really loves Ian, she will treat Ian as her own child and won't get pregnant at all. Otherwise, after her child is born, it will definitely compete with Ian for favor. If one share of love is divided into two halves, what's the point? Listening to Chloe's words, the coldness in my heart grew even stronger, but now I don't plan to expose so quickly that I am pretending. On the surface, I still showed a painful expression. Chloe, you are deliberately killing people. You will go to jail. Chloe sneered and focused her attention on my mother. Mom, think it over. If you call an ambulance today and if she calls the police and I am arrested, your eldest grandson won't be able to take the civil service exam in the future. Chloe's mother added, not only can't he take the civil service exam. If your eldest grandson knows in the future that it is you, as his grandma, who sent his mother to prison with your own hands, do you think he will hate you? My mother had a breath stuck in her throat and was so angry that she could hardly make a sound. She wanted to rush out of the door and find someone for help, but she was stopped by the people of Chloe's family. Benjamin stood up from the chair and reached out to push my mother. In my previous life, it was Benjamin who pushed my mother to the ground. On the ground were fruit knives and toys that had been thrown around by children of Chloe's family. My mother stepped on a toy and hit the back of her head on a fruit knife and died on the spot. Those people in Chloe's family threw my mother down from a tall building to cover up their crimes and faked it as if she accidentally fell. And because I was severely poisoned, and seeing my mother die in front of me, I was so angry that it accelerated the onset of toxins, and I also closed my eyes early. I don't know what happened after I died. At this time, the knife had been cleaned up by me long ago and my mother was sitting on the ground. Relatives, you are really ungrateful. It seems that after we said so much, you didn't listen to a single word. Are you only thinking about your loser daughter in your heart? Chloe's mother pointed at my mother's forehead with her hand, and spittle was almost splashing on my mother's face. What's the use of you spoiling this loser so much? Can she carry on the family line for your Alice family? In the future, only Ian can carry on the family line for your Alice family. Saying that, Chloe's mother dragged Ian over. Come on, eldest grandson. Tell your grandma that if she dares to call an ambulance and dares to call the police to have your mom arrested by the police uncle, you will not want this grandma. Ian, who is over 1 year old, can't talk yet, but looking at his grandma who has fallen to the ground, he stretches out his hand and yells to pull her. My mother broke down and cried, constantly begging, please, let Alice go to the hospital. We won't call the police. It's okay if we don't call the police. You don't call the police doesn't mean Alice won't. Haven't you seen what attitude your good daughter has towards her sister-in-law? She can even eat Cece. My mother quickly ran to me and cried and asked me to say that I wouldn't call the police. I opened my mouth and was just about to say something when there was a movement at the door. My brother came back with barbecue. Seeing the scene in the room, my brother was slightly stunned. What happened? My mother quickly rushed towards my brother. Chloe's mother was quick-eyed and quick-handed and grabbed my mother's hair. Chloe looked a little flustered. She looked outside the door. Where's Alice's husband? My brother said. My brother-in-law went to buy durian. The durians in the nearby supermarkets are sold out. He drove to a farther place. I came back first to bring you barbecue. Alex, hurry up. Call an ambulance and send your sister to the hospital. My mother endured the pain and was full of tears. She shouted hysterically and asked my brother to call an ambulance quickly. My brother was frightened by my mother's crying appearance and me who showed pain on my face. Mom, what happened? Chloe's mother directly said, "Your sister accidentally drank a beverage containing paraquat." What? Paraquat. My brother's face changed instantly. He hurriedly threw away the things in his hand and was about to take out his mobile phone to dial 120 in a flustered manner, but was stopped by Chloe's mother. "Son-in-law, it's too late for you to call an ambulance now. Paraquat is so poisonous. Your sister is already hopeless. Alex, don't listen to their nonsense. Call and send your sister to the hospital." My mother screamed desperately. Her voice became hoarse due to extreme tension and pain. But Alex stopped his actions. He asked, "Where did the paraquat come from?" Chloe curled her lips and said indifferently, "The bottle I used to hold lemon juice. I had paraquat in it before." Your sister drank lemon juice. You have to think it over. I am your wife and the most important person in your life. In the future, only I can accompany you until old age. If you call an ambulance and your sister says something to the doctor and the doctor calls the police and arrests me, what about your son? Besides, if Alice hadn't deceived me and gone back on her word, clearly agreed to be a dink, but now she is pregnant again, I wouldn't have gone to such an extent. Now that she is poisoned and about to die. If her husband is also gone, then their inheritance. Chloe didn't finish her words, but her expression has already exposed everything. There was even deeper hatred in my eyes. They are not satisfied with killing me. Unexpectedly, they even want to kill my husband. I don't know if in my previous life, my husband had fallen victim to their murderous hands. Chloe shrugged. I just took back what should have belonged to us earlier. At first, when Alex heard that I was poisoned because of Chloe, anger appeared on his face. But Chloe's next words gradually calmed his expression. My mother's eyes narrowed. "Alex. Alex. What are you thinking? That's your sister. Save your sister quickly." Alex fell silent. He grabbed my mother's hand that was hitting him. After a long time, he said in a hoarse voice, "Mom. Ian is still young. He can't be without a mother." With this sentence, Alex made his stance clear. In my previous life, neither my mother nor I waited for my brother to come back. In this life, being reborn, before my brother appeared, I had thought about what my brother would do if he saw this scene. Now, I know. A touch of desolation flashed across my eyes. Sure enough, human nature cannot withstand the test. Even if my brother and I are bound by blood, even if we have had an extremely good relationship since childhood, in the face of interests, nothing matters. Brute. Brute. You are such a brute. My mother's belief seemed to collapse instantly. She was like a person whose soul had been taken away and collapsed to the ground. Tears gushed out like a bursting flood from her swollen eyes. She called Alex a brute, but Alex remained unmoved. The people of Chloe's family had seen Alex's choice. Chloe's mother became even more unscrupulous. Her eyes lit up instantly. Son-in-law, good son-in-law. So courageous. Truly worthy of being the son-in-law of the Chloe family. In the future, your life with Cece will definitely get better and better. Chloe's mother gave a thumbs up to my brother. My gaze met my brother's. My brother didn't dare to look at me and shifted his gaze. Only then did he say, "My brother-in-law should be coming back soon. Is there any paraquat left?" Chloe nodded. "There is some in this milk. Hide my mother and sister and clean up the living room." I already knew my brother was heartless, but I didn't expect him to be so cruel. Excitement flashed in Chloe's eyes. She was about to tell the people of the Chloe family to do it. But I had already stood up from the ground. With a calm expression, Everyone in the Chloe family was stunned in place. I looked at my mother and reached out to wipe the tears from the corners of her eyes. Mom, I'm fine now. Just now I probably ate something bad and my stomach hurt a little. Now I'm fine. My mother's crying stopped abruptly. For a moment, she didn't come to her senses. I smiled slightly and held her hand. Mom, really, I'm fine. My mother looked me up and down. After confirming that I was really fine, she cried even harder. Good, 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 Alice, my Alice. I'm fine, but someone is panicking. Chloe's face instantly turned as pale as a sheet of bloodless paper. Her eyes were wide open as if her eyeballs were about to pop out of their sockets. What's going on? You didn't drink the lemon juice. I said calmly, you mean the lemon juice you squeezed by hand? I didn't drink it. Before I could finish speaking, the nose of Chloe's mother in the living room suddenly started bleeding without warning. She reached out in disbelief and touched her nose. What's going on? Why is it suddenly bleeding? Chloe's aunt was stunned for a moment. Then she replied, is it due to excessive internal heat? Did you eat a bit too much delicious food at night? Chloe's mother thought it was possible. She was just about to nod, but Chloe's aunt beside her couldn't hold it in and vomited directly with a wow. Not far away, Benjamin also suddenly let out a painful cry. He tightly covered his stomach with both hands and started rolling on the ground continuously. His lips gradually turned blue, and blood began to ooze out from his nose and ears. The scene was extremely terrifying. Chloe's face instantly turned as pale as paper. As if realizing something instantly, she began to tremble involuntarily all over. I smiled and finished what I hadn't said. I poured it into the red wine. Everyone in the Chloe family vomited in unison. Chloe's mother shouted to call an ambulance and at the same time cursed me as a bitch. But as she moved, more blood flowed out of her nose. Soon, her vision began to blur. She staggered a few times, couldn't stand steadily, and directly fell to the ground. She curled up humbly on the ground, shouting, ambulance. Ambulance. Save me. Save me. Chloe finally reacted. Her screams resounded throughout the living room. She hurriedly took out her mobile phone from her pocket and wanted to call an ambulance. I spoke lightly from the side, imitating Chloe's tone from before. This is paraquat, a deadly poison. It may be too late now. Chloe's eyes were like two black flames burning. Her gaze revealed endless hatred. That look seemed to be able to burn everything in front of her to ashes. She kept cursing at me. Bitch. You bitch. How dare you harm my family? I sneered and didn't pay attention to her words. Being pregnant, standing for a long time made my waist uncomfortable. I held my mother's hand and sat down on the sofa, enjoying the painful expressions of the people of the Chloe family. In the end, it was Chloe and my brother who called the ambulance together. When saving me, my brother hesitated. In the end, he even decided not to save me and wanted to harm my husband. When saving the people of the Chloe family, he didn't hesitate at all. Everyone in the Chloe family was sent to the hospital for gastric lavage. Chloe's aunt drank the most and was the most deeply poisoned. Also, due to poisoning, she had difficulty breathing. On the way to the hospital, she died halfway. Before dying, she vomited blood and cried, begging for help. But the doctor could do nothing. Benjamin had his stomach pumped, but the poison had already penetrated deep into his internal organs. His organs failed, and soon he also died in the hospital. Chloe's parents barely survived. Lying on the hospital bed, they rely on drugs to sustain their lives. It's just not known how long they can hold on. Chloe's younger siblings and Benjamin's wife didn't drink that red wine. After learning that Benjamin had died, she directly took the valuable things and bank cards of Chloe's family and ran away with her child. After learning this, Chloe cursed Benjamin's wife as a beast and a slut, but she didn't have the energy to pursue it. Her parents are lying in the hospital and need money to sustain their lives. She pins her hopes on my brother. But my brother is also a good-for-nothing. Just an ordinary clerk. The money he earns on weekdays is not enough for him and Chloe to spend at all. It has always been me and my mother who fill in for them. But we filled in for a beast. My brother and Chloe found me and asked me to pay to save Chloe's parents. Chloe had a swollen face like a pig's head. This was from being beaten by her parents. The reason is that if it weren't for her, Benjamin wouldn't have died. Alice, you bitch. You killed my brother and my aunt. It should have been you who drank paraquat. My parents need money for medical treatment. You must pay this money. Otherwise, I will go to the police station and report that you intentionally poisoned and killed them. You bought the red wine. And there are your fingerprints on the bottle. I've really never seen someone begging like Chloe. I sneered and slapped Chloe in the face one after another, adding some color to her pig-like face. Your brother, your aunt, and your parents were killed by you. How would I know there is paraquat in the lemon juice? The lemon juice was given to me by you. I added it to the red wine purely because the mixture of red wine and lemon juice tastes good. The red wine was taken from me by your aunt and poured for your family. And I am just an unsuspecting victim who was almost killed by Chloe. Chloe screamed and wanted to hit me, but was blocked by my husband. Oh, right. I forgot to mention. That day, in fact, I sent a text message to my husband, asking him not to come back with my brother and be late. After all, I wanted to see what attitude my brother really had. Naturally, I wouldn't give money to Chloe. Chloe then begged my mother. I know my mother's character. She is very soft and kind. Even so kind that she can be called a saint. I thought she would agree to Chloe, but to my surprise, she was very firm and refused to see Chloe and my brother. That night, there was actually a surveillance camera in the living room. I had thought about calling the police and sending Chloe in, but later I thought that it would be too simple to let her die like this. I packaged the video of that night and sent it to the children of Chloe's aunt. As far as I know, Chloe's aunt's son is a hooligan, a gambler, an alcoholic, and a violent man. Most people like this hold grudges. Over the years, he has been relying on Chloe's aunt, who is old but still works in a factory, to give him living expenses. Now, Chloe has killed his mother. He has lost his source of income. He will definitely not let this go. Sure enough, he didn't disappoint me at all. Coincidentally, at that time he owed a large sum of money and was just about to ask his mother for money. But when he learned that his mother had been killed by Chloe, he was furious. He tricked Chloe out and sold her to human traffickers. Later, my brother found out. The police arrested him and put him in prison, but Chloe couldn't be found. Chloe is missing. Benjamin is also gone. Benjamin's wife has run away. Chloe's parents are lying alone in the hospital. None of Chloe's other relatives come to visit. Soon, the two died in the hospital. My brother handled the aftermath. My brother is really deeply affectionate towards his wife's parents. However, after the event, my brother came to apologize to me. He said that on that day, he was just possessed and was instigated by Chloe's family. For a moment, he took the wrong path. He hoped that I could forgive him considering our many years of brother-sister relationship. He also proposed that to make up for the wrong things he and Chloe did, he planned to adopt Ian to me and let me have a son who would honor me in the future. This made me laugh. Alex's calculation is really good. No need. I will have my own child. Not sending my brother to the police station is already for my mother's sake. But from now on, I will have no more involvement with him. Although Ian is still young now, his parents' affairs should not involve him. But when I see him, I always think of Chloe. Moreover, I am not a saint either. Adopting Alex? That is absolutely impossible. However, after all, Alex was brought up bit by my mother. She has deep feelings for Ian. She still takes Ian with her. But this is my mother's business and has nothing to do with me. A few months later, I gave birth to a daughter. She is very cute. Her arrival has also added a lot of joy to the lives of me and my husband. When she was 3 years old, my husband and I took her to Thailand to play. At a circus performance in Thailand, we saw a snake person. The so-called snake person has a snake's tail as the lower body and a human face but also has snake features. I recognized that face. It was Chloe. Her eyes were extremely empty, and she was following instructions and doing all kinds of actions. That scene made me unable to hold back and vomit. My husband also recognized her. He took me and my daughter and changed to another city for tourism. Our days still belong to us and are very long.